going on, you guys? It's Anna. Welcome back to the channel. So today I have my most controversial video to date. I'm going to give you my reasoning why I believe MMA is better than boxing. Before I get into the video, I just want to say this. I love boxing. Boxing is a great sport. I am just giving you my reasoning for why I believe MMA is a better sport, and I'm going to give you many different types of reasons. I still love the sport of boxing. I watch it. I try and watch all the main, fights that happen throughout, pretty much every single year. I just wanted to make this video and just give you guys my reasonings on why MMA is better than boxing. So let's go ahead and get into it. Usually it's going to be, everything is going to be UFC based, obviously, when it comes to my MMA reasonings, because that is the biggest organization. Obviously, there's different organizations with boxing. But for when it comes to MMA, it's going to be mostly UFC related. I mean, obviously, there's, Bellator and One Championship and all these Ryzen. I think back in the day, that was Ryzen and stuff like that. But here we go. Let's go ahead and get into it. So, for reasoning number one, MMA has more stars. What do I mean by that? I believe that, in each division, people care about a lot of different types of fighters. There's a lot of fighters who are even lower down in the rankings that have fan bases that are pretty well known, even by casual fans. You know what I mean? People know about a Marlon Chito Vera, who is number 6 in the world. Do you guys know who the number 6 fighter in the world is in the 135-pound division? Or whatever division there is? I know there's so many divisions in boxing. Y'all probably don't unless you are a boxing purist, obviously, and you are invested in the sport heavily. You know what I mean? And obviously, I wouldn't call myself a super boxing fan. I'm not like a boxing hardcore fan. I'm definitely leaning more casual than anything. And I understand that making this type of video was like, oh, but you're a boxing casual. You don't know what you're talking about. But I'm just looking at it through this lens. When I go on social media, and I know that social media is a little, tricky, you know what I mean, and it doesn't really tell the whole story. I think that MMA makes more stars than what boxing does. Boxing obviously has the top stars like the Canelos and the Tyson Furies and the Floyd Mayweathers and Terrence Crawfords and Errol Spences. That's great. But you got guys like, even in the middleweight division, you got Marvin Vittori's, the Paulo Costas, the Khamzat Chimaevs, the Sean Stricklands, the Robert Whitakers, the Driscuses, there are so many people to be invested in. Even got like a Luke Rockhold, you know what I mean? I mean, even though he was a champion, but that's besides the point. In each division, you got really well-known guys. From pretty much definitely the top 10, damn near everybody is really well-known with, I want to say with the casual audience, obviously, because if you're a casual, but even maybe people in the top 5, the casual audience will know who that is. Oh yeah, I know who Robert Whitaker is. Oh, I know who Sean Strickland is. I know who this is and that is. People know who these people are, you know what I mean? Versus when it comes to boxing, you really just know the 2 guys that are fighting on a pay-per-view card, the last 2 guys, like Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder. Do you know who was the co-main event of that card? For the trilogy? No, you don't know, unless, obviously, like I said, you're a super boxing, hardcore fan, you know what I mean? But in my opinion, I think that the UFC has more stars and MMA has more stars. Even outside of the sport, you got Mighty Mouse, who's one of the greatest of all time, in One Championship, and he's one of a very big star. You know what I mean? So that's why I believe, that's reasoning number one of why I believe that MMA is better than boxing. So next, the best always fight the best. There's no tune-up fights whatsoever in MMA. In the UFC, especially, the best is usually always going to find the best. Or if the best is not available for the champion, they're going to find the next best person. And that's always what happens. And then reasoning, look what happened with Izzy. Izzy was supposed to fight Driscus. Who stepped up? Sean Strickland. And look what happened. Sean Strickland shocked the world and became the champion. They're always not going to Islam Makhachev is not going to fight the number 15 guy in the division as a tune-up fight. He's going to go, if he beats Charles Oliveira, he's going to have to face a guy like Alexander Volkanovski after that. He's going to have to face a Justin Gaethje. He's going to have to face the next best person. While boxing, people have tune-up fights. Not everybody, But I remember Tyson Fury, before he fought Deontay Wilder for the second time, I even forgot the guy's name. It was on ESPN, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. He fought some dude who obviously he was undefeated, but it was pretty much a tune-up fight. You know what I mean? And you think that he would expect to fight Deontay Wilder again, that would be just the next fight, that he would not fight anybody else but Deontay Wilder next. No, he fought like 2 fights, and then he fought Deontay Wilder. He was fighting tune-up fights. I mean, in my opinion, MMA, I've never seen a tune-up fight ever. I mean, Conor McGregor has been gone from the sports for years. You know what I mean? You expect maybe the UFC to give him a guy like, you know, lower in the rankings. No, they're giving him Michael Chandler, who's a top 10 guy in the lightweight division. So you have to give the UFC and MMA some credit. And it's probably the same thing for any other, you know, organization in MMA. You know what I mean? They're always going to be fighting the best of the best. Obviously, the lower end guys are going to always fight the other lower end guys. And that's how it is. And then the higher end guys, the guys who are in the top 10, top 15, you know, they're going to fight in between where they are. You know what I mean? Like the number 12 guy is going to fight the number 13 guy, or the number 10 guy, or number 9 guy. It's never, oh, the number 12 guy is going to fight an unranked fighter that nobody knows. They're always going to fight the best of the best every single time. And that's why I believe that is my second reason why MMA is better than boxing. But the next one is the purest form of fighting. I mean, you can do everything in MMA. Like, well, there's obviously, you know, some limited restrictions. You know, you can't knee a grounded opponent, and you can hit the back of the head. But I mean, these are obvious. But like, you can knee, you can kick, you can throw elbows, you can throw all types of ways. Obviously, you can't headbutt or anything like that. That's just ridiculous. But I mean, I don't even know why you throw a headbutt or anything like that. But like, obviously, boxing is a limited sport. Boxing, you just only can use your hands. You know what I mean? You can't kick, you can't grapple or anything like that. I mean, obviously you can hold and stuff like that, but in MMA, it is not too limited, to be honest with you. It is pretty limitless in a sense. You know what I mean? Because you can do just about almost everything. You know, you can use your whole body pretty much. You know what I mean? And that's why I love it so much. I mean, you can see a grappler versus a striker. And there's a different type of matchups that you can get. You can get a grappler versus striker, a grappler versus grappler, striker versus striker. You know, a jiu-jitsu guy versus a grappler. You get all types of stuff. You know, there's always different types of matchups, and that's what makes it so intriguing for everybody. Boxers are always going to fight boxers, and they're all, you know, going to do the same thing. They're going to try and punch each other. Obviously, there's people that are more defensive than others. There's more power punchers. You know, you can have a power puncher versus a technical boxer. You can have a defensive boxer versus a, you know, elite striker or whatever. You know, there's different types of stuff like that in boxing. But in MMA, I mean, just the amount of different types of matchups that could be made is fantastic. It is a pure form of fighting. You know what I mean? And that's why it's so great, because it's so unpredictable sometimes. You never know what Khabib is going to, I mean, usually Khabib always grapples, but like, you never know what a guy like Dustin Poirier could do, because Dustin Poirier's jiu-jitsu is actually pretty good. You know what I mean? You never know what a guy like Khamzat Chimaev could do, because if you saw his fight with Gilbert Burns, you thought that he was going to try and grapple. No, he had a stand-up fight. You know what I mean? That's why this sport is so great. It's because of that. It's because it's so unpredictable, and having it be the purest form of fighting makes it unpredictable in any type of matchup that there is. Obviously, there's people that only like to strike, guys like Conor McGregor and you know, guys like that in that department, Justin Gaethje's and whatever. But you know, I feel like the purest form of fighting is the best type of fighting, in my honest opinion. That's why I believe MMA is better than boxing in that department as well. And boxing, you just use your fists. You know what I mean? And that's it. And it's great. Don't get me wrong. They're always, you know, not always entertaining, but they're entertaining. Don't get me wrong. Boxing is super entertaining, but it's limited to one thing, to fists. That's it. You can't kick, grapple, nothing. So that's my other reasoning. My next reasoning is the pay-per-view fight cards for MMA are always better. Specifically the UFC. The UFC, obviously, sometimes they have some shitty fight cards. Let's just be honest. But usually, they're always going to be better than a boxing fight card. Let's just be honest. people, are invested in the first fight of a pay-per-view fight card to the main events. That's why it's so great, I mean, you look at all the amount of fight cards throughout the years that we have gotten. We have gotten some great fight cards where literally the first fight of the night, not really the first fight of the night, because early prelims, they're not as great. They're up-and-coming guys and stuff like that trying to, make a name for themselves. But for the pay-per-view, the first fight of the night, you are invested. I mean, we got Justin Gaethje versus Michael Chandler to start off a fight card. How insane is that? I mean, boxing, you really care about maybe the main event a little bit and then the main events. You know what I mean? People don't really care about all the other fights underneath. And that's another reason people usually just show up to the main event. MMA fans are going to be there from the get-go. It's going to be sold out and everybody's going to be seated by the prelims. You know what I mean? Or at least by the first fight of the main card. You know what I mean? That's why it's so great. People are invested. People only show up to boxing events when the main event is about to happen. And that's why, that's my other reasoning too. I'm just going to clump that in there as well, is that the MMA fans, I might get a little bit of hate for this, are better than boxing fans. Let's just be honest. In a sense of people that are showing up to the events. Obviously, people that are, are online and stuff like that, they're shitty MMA fans and they're shitty boxing fans. There's shitty fans everywhere. I mean, it's just life, right? But fans that go to these events, I mean, I don't think it's close. I think the fans that show up to MMA events are they're more energetic, in my honest opinion, and they care a lot more about the fights than boxing fans or people that attend these boxing events. People that attend these boxing events, they show up for the co-main event, and they're finally seated for the co-main event. I've seen different types of fight cards that it is super empty. It's like it could be Floyd Mayweather could be fighting in the main event and it's empty when it's like the third fight of the night for the boxing event. You know what I mean? While in MMA, there's going to be a lot more people seated during the prelims or early prelims. There's going to be a lot more people. So that's why I think it's a lot better, in my honest opinion. The fight cards are just so much better and people are more invested. And that also leads back to, MMA having more stars as well. You know what I mean? So that's my other reasoning there too. The fight cards are usually always better. And they're always better. I mean, let's just be honest, than boxing fight cards. Boxing pay-per-views. Let's get into the next one. I'm also going to clump this into the fight nights too. I mean, UFC fight nights are usually, they're not the pay-per-views, they're just a fight night, and usually the main event is usually pretty good. But sometimes even the fight night cards can be very good and very underrated. Like the fight night cards that they held in London, where they had Paddy Pimblett and Tom Aspinall and all these other guys in the UK, they are pretty solid fight cards, man. And hell, some of them are even better than what boxing pay-per-views do. Let's just be honest. They're great, and people are invested in it so much, so heavily. That's why it's so, I'm telling you, bro, boxing fight cards, I feel like could be so much better. I'm not saying that you got to literally put Floyd Mayweather and a Tyson Fury and all these people on the same card, but you can make these fight cards better. You can invest in these other fighters better. I feel like they don't invest in their other, fighters, in their other boxers. In my honest opinion, I mean, there's people that have their fans. There's boxers that have their fans, obviously, that are fighting early on. But I feel like it's not even close when you compare it to for example, Marvin Vettori. Marvin Vettori is pretty well known in the MMA landscape. You know what I mean? And he's probably bigger, and it's sad because Marvin Vettori's not that great. He's probably bigger than a lot of guys that are fighting on these main cards. But that's just how it is. Because MMA and UFC, they promote these fighters better than I think they do boxing, in my honest opinion. I really genuinely believe that. I don't know, that might be a hot take, I don't know. I don't think it is a hot take, to be honest with you. I really do believe that they don't really invest in their fighters as much as MMA and UFC do. Let's just be honest. So, yeah. Let me get into my next point. Sorry. More violence. I mean, if you're a really violent person, sorry. If you are I mean, violence is always great. Obviously, you know, when a fight gets really ugly and it's super bloody, it's disgusting. But like, I think that boxing obviously could get very violent, and these guys can be just fucking hitting each other to no extent. You know what I mean? To no end. But in MMA, I mean, it could be a super violent sport. But that's why it makes the sport so much better. I mean, you look at that fight between Dustin Poirier and Max Holloway. That fight was violent, but it was fucking great violence. I mean, damn near pretty much every Justin Gaethje fight has all types of violence, aside his fight with Khabib. And it is super entertaining. They're entertaining. They're super violent, but entertaining. The violence is, I mean, I don't even think it's close. I think that MMA is a more violent sport. And it goes back to the fact that they can use, you know, knees and kicks and all that kind of stuff. That's why it's so much more violent. I mean, it is sometimes could be a little tough to watch. But, man, it is so entertaining though, man. I'm telling you, bro. The violence is what makes fights entertaining sometimes. Sometimes it could get ugly, like what happened with Tony Ferguson and Justin Gaethje. I mean, that fight was absolutely brutal. Or Calvin Kattar or Max Holloway, that was brutal as well. But man, masterclasses like that just have all types of violence in them. I mean, it is fantastic to watch. It is entertaining to watch, and that's why I believe it's better. And I'll give you this. I'll give boxing this. I'm going to end with this. Boxing, where they are better at than MMA is the pay, the fighter pay, especially for the top guys. I think that they pay their fighters better than what the UFC and MMA does. Obviously, there's other organizations like Bellator. I heard that Bellator, they pay their guys pretty well. And I think also as a PFL, if I'm not mistaken, I think they pay their guys pretty well as well. I mean, they just were able to sign a guy like Francis Ngannou. Even though I think Francis Ngannou was supposed to get a pretty solid contract, even better than what he got in PFL, but obviously he has more freedom and he has bigger roles in that company. But I give you this: the top guys get paid. Floyd Mayweather, Canelo Alvarez, the Triple G's. They're getting paid. They're getting paid the big bucks, like even way much more than guys like Conor McGregor and the bigger names in the sport, John Joneses and the Nate Diaz's. They're not getting paid as much as Canelo or Floyd or any bigger names. They're not getting paid that kind of money. And I give them that. But it's usually, I don't know, I will have to go more in depth and go in detail, see what these other guys lower in the card are making, to be honest with you, because I don't want to just assume that everybody's making bank. But I just know that the top guys, I mean, look at Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor went to boxing and got his biggest payday that he's ever done, bigger than anything that he got in the UFC. So those guys are getting paid. The top guys will get paid. The Deontay Wilders and the Anthony Joshuas and those guys are going to get paid. Don't get me wrong. The main event players, they get paid more than what the UFC guys get paid. You know what I mean? So I'll give them that, but that's pretty, I mean, there's probably other things too that you can look at as well. But in my opinion, that's pretty much it, I think. Yeah. Obviously, I think this video might get some hate. It is what it is at the end of the day. I'm not saying that boxing is it is not a terrible sport. It is a great sport, and I really do enjoy boxing. But I just wanted to give you my reasons why MMA is better. I think it's a better sport, and I think, I already gave you my reasons, okay? So please don't, let's all be cordial here. Let's have a discussion, obviously, in the comment section below what you guys believe is a better sport. We can obviously have constructive criticism. You guys can, shit on me if you guys like to in the comments. I mean, don't go too crazy, you know what I mean? But that's pretty much it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys soon with another video. Peace out.